In day 2 of Ron Week, we're going to look at some finishing paths for this part. So again, these are going to be multi-axis toolpaths. And again, Ron is using that simplified model to drive these toolpaths with. So the point being, that little bit of extra work up front is really starting to pay dividends downstream here in this programming process. The first toolpath we're going to see is a flow 5-axis toolpath. That's going to be done on the middle portion of this part. Ron then hops into the MultiAxis Parallel toolpath to do the 2 flat sides. And then lastly, he's going to hop into Morph to hit the rads going around the edges here. So with that, let's hop into day 2 of Ron Week.
And then, so we roughed it. Next thing was, then I then wanted to start finishing. So I went back to just an old school flow, just a kind of flat bottom end mill to go over the top of the part. And so then I went back to my other solid to drive my toolpaths from, because again, if your toolpath has to overthink, it's going to overthink. If it doesn't have to overthink, you're going to get a better path. So when I went back to here and use the old school flow 5-axis, this is what I grabbed was those surfaces. So not only did dumbing the model down help me with my toolpath calculations, but in the back of my brain, I knew it was going to help me for my other stuff, because I'm coming across those edges. So, I've got those engravings all across there. And if I try to come across there with anything, it's going to jump up and skip. And why does Mastercam do that? Well, it's doing what you told it to. You gave it all this data and it's interpreting it. So let's dumb it down. Let's give it what it needs to create our path. And so that's kind of where it served 2 purposes, not just to help me rough the part, but then also finish the part. So those are things that I think people miss sometimes with model prep is, I got a really crazy, just take that, bull and remove it out, or section it out, work on that, and drive your toolpath from that. Or I've even taken sections and made stock models out of them, and had situations where it's a really complex thing. And I don't want this big giant stock model, but I need a stock model to help me here. Okay, section it out, dumb it down, boom. Next stock model from there, drive it. You've got your control. And that's part of that whole process of model prep. It's not just a dumb, no, it has many functions. Don't just limit your thinking to one aspect of it. So again, just came in, we can see our direction, again, because it's a basic shape. We're getting kind of what I would expect for toolpath. Everything looks really good. And now I like to backplot every toolpath I make. I know a lot of guys that are just like, I'll just get to it to the end, and I'll just get again, I'm building it in my head. I want to see what I expect to see. Okay, I was programming this for a head machine. It could go on a trunnion machine. It could go on a head table machine. So just about any 5-axis machine out there on the market, this particular part could go in pretty easily. And that's another thing I was thinking about on this is, how would I go about it? Now, certain head machines that are limited wouldn't necessarily be perfect for this, because you only have 40, up to 40 degrees of travel, and this wouldn't work. But your full knucklehead machines where you can go up to 110 or whatever, then this would be perfect for those machines. Any trunnion machine, whatever, this part would go on. And then if we just come through and start backplotting it, we can see, okay, this is giving me the kind of motion I want, kind of going through and giving me, a decent toolpath. Now, I've used flat bottom tools for, 20 years. I guess 20 years now. And a lot of people don't understand a flat end mill. A flat end mill is actually made with it's not flat. Even though they say it's a flat end mill, it's actually really not flat. And they'll actually make you a perfectly flat bottom end mill. And in situations like this, where I want to come across this radius and not have to color the whole radius, a flat bottom end mill will do it all day long and really do a good job. But it has to be one of those perfectly flat bottom end mills. Now, this is a 200,000 step over. This isn't a real part. I just throwing something together. So I might go down to like 50 to get it better. but that's something a lot of people will never do. They're like, well, why would you do with 5 mil? Well, why not? It's an outside shape. Now, it's inside shape. You got to use the ball end mill. You got to use even the Muji tools or the Fraser tools or the others that make the barrel tools.
Mm-hmm.
They're all based off that same principle. They still have that idea that we're taking a bigger radius, and any one of those tools would be great on this part. I just didn't put them into this because I was just trying to, again, get a basic concept.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think I could explore down the road. So I went through, did that, and then I wanted to finish the outside of the radiuses. Now, when I'm making toolpaths, I like to go through and just throw some rough ideas together. I don't like to really, okay, it's got to be, no, I'll throw like a 200,000 step over. Is this going to work? I'll go through and check my tool axis controls, and do I want to control it with surface? Now, people look at these 5-axis toolpaths and all these options, and they start, man, my head's, man, you're killing me. Okay.
Yeah.
Learn them. They all have a part, they all have a purpose, but as daunting as they look, there's a lot of power here. There's a lot of control. And, the basic ones, surface with tilt, experiment. And that's how I've learned it. I mean, I've got the help sections, but I'm not really good at like looking at help and going, okay, I can apply that. I need to do it.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's try this. That failed. I may fail 10 times on something before I see something I like. And on this particular case, because I knew what I was trying to do and how I wanted to do it, surface was our best choice. Limits are here, and a lot of people don't understand these. You're like, well, what does it mean? Study it, look at it. You're not sure? Try. Turn it on. Okay, what is that going to do? X, Y, Y, Z. Okay, conical limit. You have drop downs here. Well, take the time. I mean, I'm not getting into this, but they're all there. So maybe down the road, I'll just spend time on each one of these things, but their software has lots of power to it. Another one that probably a lot of people don't use is the extend trim. I love this a lot because I want to go another 100 thousandths past the edge of the surface. I'll come over here and just kick my another 100 thousandths. Now I'm going around a radius, so I don't really care about coming here to a value. So I'll just leave this alone. And the good thing about this is when you get to them, the pictures are relevant. Pay attention. Look at them. What are they helping you with? All right. Now, I'm going to X out of that just so everybody can see how Toolpath was before I started. And all I'm doing is just facing the part. Just a basic facing. Again, I wanted to just throw some stuff together so people could see it.
Mm-hmm.
But in all reality, stopping on that edge, I mean, it's a flat end, it should be okay. But for whatever reason, I decided, no, I want to go 100 thousandths more. Okay. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to go and draw any geometry. I don't have to redo a surface. Don't have to do anything. I just come in here, turn on that extend trim in the options. I'll give it 100 thousandths. Of course, all my toolpaths went dirty, which is fine. And now I'll backplot this. Once Mastercam decides to catch up. And again, this is not a super complex part, but I do have stock models in there. And so it's thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll come in here sometimes and I'll go multi-thread manager and I'll give it a little help. Now, I've been told this doesn't help anything, but it makes me feel good. So I do.
Yeah, it feels like you're helping. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I put it on high, So that's one thing they did in 2021. You could do in previous versions is you could, while I was doing some calculations, you could backplot things. So now what I'll do sometimes in situations like this is if I know my stock model is going to be kind of locked, I'll save it out to a level and make that model dumb, so to speak.
Right.
So I'll go in Mastercam and I'll get everything. I'll prep it like I normally do. And then I'll go into the stock model itself, save it to a level, and then pick that STL, a P mesh,
mm-hmm.
or the toolpath, and then I'll delete all the source operations. So that way, if I get in a situation like this where, hey, I want to change this, I want to tweak this, I want to do that, then I don't get into a situation where I'm like, oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on some of my files. I mean, I got a file right now with 680 operations in it. I think I got 20 stock miles. So
I don't know if I should say this or not, but if you're in the Mastercam, excuse me, Mastercam beta program, I think there might be a new function that might help out with some of that stuff.
yeah,
I won't say anything about it because it's yeah.
I'm in the beta, but I don't have time right now to do any beta. So I
like
used
to see
to,
new
but
things.
I don't have that time anymore.
Yeah. I'm the guy that has time to do that stuff now.
So that's good.
But
So
yeah, no, it's a good point about saving it out so that when you do make changes prior to that model, you don't have to go through steps again.
So you can go in here now, and we can see that I now have 100,000 passed.
Yes.
Pretty easy. But again, old school, we would have made a surface up, we would extend the surface out. We'd had to do a lot of different things. So with the newer toolpaths, we have options. And so that's all I did here is just, basic, go in there, face it off, parallel. I even got a little trick with it and just did like a 45-degree angle just to kind of show that, I can control this really kind of any way I want.
Right.
I just throw 45 in there just to kind of, this will be what we see as a final appearance. So if this was a finished part, then that 45, so, oh man, that was really cool. Okay, I'm glad you like it. So
that's a good thing to point out there as well, is using a multi-axis toolpath like that to do a flat face.
Yeah.
So not many would think to use parallel to machine a face. I think it's also a good point as well to just make that known.
I could have went there with like horizontal. I could have went there with pocket. I could have went there with face. I mean, I even contoured if I really wanted to, but it was just, again, there's a lot of power in the 5-axis toolpath. So I just wanted to kind of give people a different way to think about it. So that's why I did that. And then I'm over here finishing the radiuses. And again, the same thing, just kind of, going through and doing things and checking it. I've started using the linking parameters for my clearance. So I've actually decided I want a 5-inch cylinder around the center of the part as my clearance from and clearance to. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand how to use either, because it doesn't give you the same feedback that the old school toolpaths do. And this is something that I've asked them in development to work on, is it visually show us like you do in the old school toolpaths. And that was part of the reason why I did this one this way as well, so that you can come in here and look in your safety zone.
Yeah.
And see, we can see it. So as we're going through and we're trying to figure out what's a good safety zone, a good thing to work from in our toolpath, then we can see it in the old school toolpaths. They did an excellent job of bringing this in and making it part of the programmer's experience.
Yeah.
Here, we have to visualize that. Okay, where am I actually coming up with that? How am I going about it? And this is another one that a lot of people look at and they're just like, man, this is just way too much. Well, it's really not. If you break it down to principles, you have your entries, you have five options here. Do I want to lead in? Do I want to lead out? All these different things I want to control as part of my process, I have the ability to control. So that's part of that whole idea of learn it. Okay. Sometimes I want to go from feed distance. Sometimes I want to come retract distance. Sometimes I want to be direct. Start from home position, these are actually ref points in this toolpath. So what I'll do is I'll make the toolpath and then I'll go to backplot it and I'll save the first move in. I'll save the last move out. And then I'll put points on there and bring them up. Now I've got, I know maybe this one's a better one, or maybe this one. Now, it's not the same as ref where we have an option for both. So whatever you pick for one goes for both. So you have to be thinking about, okay, so that's why I'll just go ahead and do both sometimes. And then I'll just do a midpoint. I'll go, okay, that's a good place. It can go from here and go from there. Small gaps, large gaps, they're all relative to the same things like we have in flow line and such, where we want to like small gap things they're the same, just different wording. Probably the biggest thing too is, this is another one people look at, and they look at this drop down and they're like, man, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's pretty scary. Well, yeah, but I have situations where I'm trying to take a right angle head and come into a pocket with a 9-inch long tool, and I have 100 thousandths clearance to get that tool down inside there, and I've got to color that. How would you do about that? Well, I may go in there with the vertical tangent arc and know that it'll come in tangent to that wall, but reversed of it, and go right in where I want. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know that originally. I had to kind of maybe try.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. This is what it's for, to learn. And I just try. So in this one, I just went basic on this, came in, tangential arc, things like that, and nothing really spectacular. Just wanted to kind of do it. But the good thing about part like this is you can play with these things. You can change it. You can go from, tangential arc, reverse tangential arc, orthogonal line, orthogonal arc, vertical line. All these things, this is a file to play with. Mm-hmm. In the Mastercam files, they're on Tech Exchange. If this is in there, pull it and play with it. Don't just grab it, use it, man. Like, do something with it. And a lot of people are kind of like, no. I didn't know either. I didn't wake up one morning and say, okay, I got it all figured out. It's in my brain. No.
What's that too? You could read the help file that gives the explanation for what each of those does, but it won't make sense until you see what it actually does to your physical toolpath. You've got to have a toolpath as toolpath 1. Try option B and compare and look at the differences, and now you know what those are actually doing. Yeah.
So that's where this again, it's basic. I mean, I'm just coming across. I didn't even put a really fine step over. I just put a kind of a core step over, just kind of look at it. Mm-hmm. And just, it's a 5-axis motion, so it's you go to a trade show and everybody be salivating over, just going, oh, this looks really cool, man, this looks awesome. Yeah, I should have picked toolpath. Sorry, I mean, I'm not trying to degrade anybody, but it's just a basic toolpath. Now, something to be aware of in this toolpath on the first page, and really all the Mastercam toolpaths that are using this, is this right here. Is avoid cuts at exact edges or full starting in at exact surface edges. And the difference in that is, just like it shows here in the picture, it's not going to the edge. If I wanted to go to the edges and bring that tool crisply up to the edges, then that's what I want to turn on. And that's probably the biggest difference between them. Is sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, especially if I'm coming up to like a fillet, or if I'm coming up to a vertical wall, I won't use this. I will purposely not have it come up to that wall. And then I'll come back with a different toolpath and actually cut that fillet if it's a ball or bull or whatever. Right. Because if it's zigzagging, what it's doing is it's leaving little divots up and down that wall. And that's going to look terrible. And it's going to be a poor quality part, in my opinion. Now, again, it might pass 125 surface finish, and it might pass, whatever.
Yeah.
But from a visually idea of a good looking part, I do not want to give a customer that. So those are times when I will change this or tweak this or change I've sat here before and changed step overs by 1/1000 of an inch and see which step over got me exactly where I wanted to go to get into an area. Right. Again, I don't know how to explain it. Just one of the things.
And that's where we're going to wrap up day 2's video. Tomorrow, a little sneak peek into what's coming there. We're going to be hopping into the newly named pocketing MultiAxis toolpath. Again, these pockets have curved walls and concave and convex floors. So we need a MultiAxis toolpath for that. And then we're going to go through one finishing option on these floors using the parallel toolpath to, again, finish that curved surface. So you can look forward to all of that coming in day 3 of Ron Week.